We are out and about, nice and early, Matthew Capper, at Gibraltar Point. We've got the geese flying over at the moment. We're waiting for high tide. This is going to be quite amazing, isn't it?
This is one of the best mornings you could ever wish for. This is one of the UK's best wildlife spectacles, which is the very highest tides on the Wash, which cover all of the mud, and then all of the birds that would normally be feeding out there get pushed off. They have to find refuge over the high tide period. It creates one of the best wildlife spectacles in the UK. The people here today, we're now an island. We're in the visitor centre here at Gibraltar Point. We are surrounded by the water. It's come in. We are marooned, and yet people are having a full English breakfast. They're up here on the roof space. They're watching it all unfold. If you're going to do this wildlife spectacle, this is the way to do it.
Thankfully, the rain has eased off a little bit from when we arrived at about 6:30, and it was very dark then. It's lovely and quite special just seeing it light up, isn't it?
Yeah, in that half light, you kind of peered out and thought, what? Oh, wow, it's coming in. And then it gets a little bit lighter and you realise that this wall of water is just basically making its way in towards you. And it is magical, isn't it? We were just listening to the sound of pink-footed geese go over. Then the Brent geese took off as well. So the different call that they both have, but both really, really wild, evocative noises. It's magical here.
When I was talking to somebody else about this, they were sort of saying, OK, will you see the waders then right on the edge of the water as the tide comes in? It's a little bit of a different landscape here, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually, to be fair, it was actually dark when the water hit the edge of the mudflat. But what we should get, we didn't get it on the way out, but we should get it on the way back in, because all of these birds, and there can be over 100,000 knots, there can be tens and tens of thousands of birds out there, they are seeking refuge up on the high ground on Greenshank Creek, just over to the east of us. And then as the tide goes back out this morning in about an hour's time, eventually the mud will be exposed. That is now exposing the feeding grounds for these birds again, and they are going to take off in big clouds. So think your starling murmuration, but with wading birds, slightly bigger, and we are going to be here on the roof space at the visitor centre, and we are going to have a grandstand view to watch it all unfold.
I've put my wellies on today because I didn't know how far we'd have to wade through the water, but we've come through an area, for those that have been to Gibraltar Point before, you come over a bit of a hump in the road, and there's a floodgate there, isn't there?
Yes, so the dunes, the inner dune, the western dunes as we call them, that run down parallel with the reserve, they effectively form the sea defence, and then it bends round, and then you have this artificial sea bank that stretches all the way down past Wainfleet, all the way down along the Wash, that was constructed way back after the major floods in the 1950s. But where the road comes over, there's that little hump that's slightly lower, so there's a little tidal gate that they can close on days like this just to stop the water breaching and going over the other side. So we walked over that, through the car park, into the centre, and then only 10 minutes later, that then just basically the water came in behind us and we were cut off. Yeah,
thankfully the car park is still dry, isn't it? Because it's relatively high.
Yeah, so the visitor centre is built on kind of gabions so that the water can flow underneath. But we've got the old Coast Guard station next to us. We've got the car park. This is the natural bit of high ground. It's no surprise that back in the 1800s they built the Coast Guard station there because they knew that was the bit where the tide doesn't get it. It has to be something really quite biblical for this bit to go, and it's not going to go today.
Yeah, and back in the original days of the area here, back in the days of Ted Smith, would they have come and enjoyed the spectacle of a high tide as well, do you think?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, people have been doing this for generations, and that's why it's so lovely that we've got people all the way from North Yorkshire. Somebody come from today, but a lot of locals as well have come down. People often go to Snettisham because it's quite accessible, and the birds do come very close. But actually,
is it egret over there?
Two little egrets coming by. There's lots of gulls. I mean, and as the tide comes in and floods the salt marsh, all the small mammals are getting pushed off in front of that. So the gulls are basically hunting around that front edge, and they're picking off the mammals. It is just one of the best spectacles, isn't it?
And it is wildlife and nature. That's what happens. The gulls are there. They have to feed, don't they?
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about little egrets. There's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over there on that front edge. Another 3 over here. There's a little cluster of 3 down there. And over here, just out on the edge, there's more Brent geese. We've had a seal just popping up. I mean, you have the river that runs past the centre.
Yeah, you've got the boats on there, so they're actually in the river, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's now just become this massive lake. And actually there, can you see?
Oh, yes.
Seal.
Yeah.
Just off the left-hand jetty.
Got you.
Yeah, so it's swimming right. So again, we wouldn't normally get them this far up because it's normally just a very shallow river at this point. But as today, they're just coming straight in with the tide. So, yeah, that's a common seal, that one.
I mean, it really is interesting because from here, you now realise how close the sea is, how close the wash is, don't you?
Yes, and people sometimes wonder why the visitor centre was built so far from the sea, because on a normal day, you know, the tide looks like quite a way away, but actually, you know, here now, the tide is only just 20, 30 yards away, and it's really, really spectacular. What are these? Hold on, there's something, widgeon just flying in,
They have been disturbed, have they? Because we can see some of the sandbanks out there, can't we, as well?
Yeah, so these are coming out, and actually, when the water comes in, it's going to basically flush through this salt marsh. So a lot of the plants that have got seeds, the water will actually flush all those seeds out. So if you're a duck and you want to feed on that sort of stuff, actually with the water full of food, they're just piling in now to take advantage of this. So yeah, this is an unfolding spectacle as we speak.
Let me try and catch up with Sam, who knows the area really well. Sam, you've done a lot of work here, and this is very different to when you've been out looking after the little terns, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to impress on people that the nature reserve is alive, and it's times like these you sort of really see why.
Where would the terns have been then?
So the terns would have been out on the most southerly tip of Millennium Ridge, which is the most southerly point of the reserve. And that's where they built their colony this year, and have done for the last 47, 48 years now.
I was understanding that basically what you have to do when you're looking after them, because they are so protected and so special, you sometimes have to move the eggs, don't you?
Yeah, so it's quite a frequent occurrence during the bigger tide sequences. Thankfully, we didn't have too many big tides. But there's numerous occasions where I'd go down with probably either a baseball cap or a lunchbox and put some sand in them, put the eggs in there and sit next to the nest until the tide had passed. Or if the tide washed over the nest, then you'd have to rebuild the nest. Then you replace the eggs in the hope that the adults will come back.
That's real dedication.
Yeah, it's pretty damn scary, to be honest, if I'm being really honest. And quite emotional as well. I remember the first time I did it was with a ring plover nest that I'd found on the 30th of April. We had 3 of us working on the day, and one of them was his birthday. So I said, don't worry about it, I'll cover the tide tonight. It's not going to be very high. And we had a freak tide, much bigger than we suspected. And I went down, had to lift this nest on me. And I'd never done it before, and it was terrifying. I sat there for 45 minutes while the tide passed and washed over the nest, had to rebuild the nest, put the eggs back, walked away, and about 15 minutes later the adults came back and I sat there and cried.
Oh my goodness. I mean, this is a special moment in nature, isn't it, Matthew?
It is, and it's fair to say that this is, well, the great lengths that our staff go to make sure that these birds are safe and protected. It's worth saying that this is quite unusual. I mean, the best habitat here, which attracts the birds into nest, unfortunately gets covered by the higher tides. So, you know, they move in with the best of intentions, and then all of a sudden it's like your home's about to be flooded. Now, these guys have special licenses and special permission. You can't just go and do this, but because we know it happens and because we know that, it works, we have this license, we have this permission, and Sam's able to go and do that. And it's the most rewarding thing when the birds come back.
Why is this such a special place for you, Sam?
It's just how wild it is. I don't think there are many nature reserves that have quite the range of habitats that are present on the nature reserve. Also just how fluent and fluid it is. Like now, I mean, this is the prime example. There's not many nature reserves where more than half of it will be underwater during the morning, and in the afternoon you could probably go and walk around in your wellies and go and see a completely different species.
I find it quite incredible. We must be very near high tide now, mustn't we?
High tide's about now.
And, it's as if we're right on the wash now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's... I think that's probably what the beauty of this place is you don't necessarily have to go and find the wildlife, as everything gets pushed to you.
What have we got flying over here? Get the bins on.
flock of shelduck.
Flock of shelduck, yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, nice birds.
And again, it does give you a chance to see something a bit different when you've got a tide like this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Matthew's touched on it already, but the wader spectacle, I was trying to explain this yesterday. So the waders move in 3 stages. They'll start at Wainfleet and then move on to Millennium Ridge. They'll move from Millennium Ridge up to the Greenshanks Creek at the north end. And then as the tide recedes, they'll move back down and filter back around to Wainfleet again. And it's the murmurations that make it so special.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen murmurations of starling. That's incredible. But you'd get them of other birds here, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our most numerous species, wader-wise, are not bar-tailed godwit and grey plover. And they sort of fill out the bulk of the wader flocks. But you do get other things like sanderling. But when they take off, particularly if a raptor comes through, if a peregrine bombs through and flushes the load off, it's just one of the most obscene.
What's actually sitting over there?
So there's a load of Brent geese just out off the edge here. So all the birds that are dotted around on the water there are Brent geese. So yeah, these are a winter visitor. And they're just starting to build up in numbers now. So one of our wild geese. We famously talk about my least favourite bird being Egyptian geese, but I do have to say I really love Brent geese. They're fantastic.
Are you a fan of Egyptian geese, Sam?
No.
They've got no supporters.
No.
They've got no supporters. What's wrong with them?
I said it before. They look like a goose that was made from all the spare parts that were left over.
They do. When they start calling, when they're making their mating calls, they sound like a reversing bin lorry, which doesn't help them.
Matthew touched on this earlier, that as the water's coming up as well, the gulls are sort of having a bit of a feast, aren't they? They're getting their breakfast this morning, and you've witnessed that, haven't you?
Yeah, so not necessarily with the blackhead. There's a lot of black-headed gulls here this morning, probably hundreds, maybe into the thousands. But it's the lesser black-backed gulls that not cause the most damage, but they enjoy their breakfast the most. So when we do get a big high tide spectacle, and there's not many grass tufts left over, the mammals have to swim for survival. So your voles, there's a sparrowhawk just going just along the edge of the VC. So the mammals, they have to swim for their survival, and they're unbelievably good swimmers. But then they have to go to these grass tufts to survive. They get to the grass tufts and are met by a big gull with a big mouth and a big belly that just sort of wolf them down and carry on with the day.
And what will the sparrowhawk be hunting down there? Will that be after mammals or is it after small birds?
Yeah, so both. So any of the small passerines that are moving through, but generally it'll be the mammals as well. So the sparrowhawks here have an amazing hunting method where, and I've not seen it anywhere else, they'll fly probably a foot over the reed beds and the salt marsh, because they'll surprise the waders that feed in the pools,
right,
so they can't see them coming. So naturally, if a bird sees a predator from a long way off, they'll just go. Whereas the sparrowhawks have realised that if they fly across really, really low, they can't see him until the last second.
And he was low then, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely,
really low.
below the level of visitor centre.
What, have you got any more seals coming in? I saw one.
Another sparrowhawk there.
Oh, have you got another one?
Yeah, over the water here.
Really low flight, but a lovely flight as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and as Sam says, they're ambush predators. They are fantastic at twisting and turning. They can manoeuvre really long legs, so they can grasp out in front of them to pluck a bird out of the air. And yeah, we've been watching starlings flying through low over the water. There's been a couple of meadow pipits go over. We've had redwings, and the sparrowhawks are going to be trying to get any of those. But yeah, any unsuspecting wader along the sort of the edge of the salt marsh here, they're just going to fly low and try and just surprise it. And yeah, they're ambush predators.
Are we at peak now, do you think?
Yeah, this is about as high as we're going to get, and it is a sheet of water out here. If anybody knows Gibraltar Point and has never been, you really do need to come on a day like this, because it is hard to comprehend how different it is. And actually, everybody's had their cooked breakfast and they're just starting to filter back upstairs to join us now, so their timing is good.
I did feel the pressure this morning, knowing that I had to be here before it became an island. I knew I had to be here and get on site, otherwise I'd be the other side of the water to you.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to come over there and give you a piggyback, to be fair.
Look, absolutely amazing. Let's just enjoy it. Have you been to a high tide event before?
No, this is our first time here, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What have you spotted? Anything of interest?
Oh,
Breakfast was very good, yeah.
Oh, we saw the seal.
Yeah.
And amazing watching the sea come up and everything, the
It's
tide.
incredible, isn't it?
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
You know, you just can't believe what's happening, can you? And all the birds flying around as well, trying to find somewhere to get some dry ground.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, really.
Yeah,
No, I've been here for sunrises at the crack of dawn in summer, and it's absolutely magical. But it's the first time I've seen a high tide like this, so amazing.
It's good. Bit windy.
Yes.
Yeah, windy and wet, but there we are.
Hello, tell me a bit about what you've enjoyed so far.
Well, I just like being out here, seeing the birds, seeing the sea come in.
Quite spectacular,
it
really,
isn't
it?
And the sunrise, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Although it's not the best day for a sunrise.
No, we could have done with a bit more sun today. Is this a regular place for you to visit?
Yes.
Yeah.
When we're in Skegness, we come
lovely.
down.
Have you been to a high tide event before?
Yes, we have. Yes.
Yeah, and
two or three.
Why is it so special, do you think?
Well, I don't know. We come down here quite a lot, but we're never here at the high tide.
No.
So to see the water covering everywhere like that, it's quite a fantastic natural thing that we can't create it, can we?
No,
It just
very,
happens
very
sometimes.
special.
Yeah.
And what have you spotted so far today?
Well, apparently there's been a male hen harrier out here, but I haven't seen it.
Haven't seen it yet?
No.
Oh, well.
No.
We'll get the
Several
scopes
seals.
sorted, but
Yes.
that's good.
Yeah.
We've had a seal just popping
Yes,
up and down a
and
bit.
there.
Yeah, that seems to be very popular today.
Yes, yeah.
Matthew, rain coming in again now. The high tide has passed, but actually there's still plenty to see here because as the tide recedes, we're going to get some birds sort of coming across in good number, aren't we?
To be fair, I thought I had a flock of birds a minute ago, but I think it was the rain on my glasses. It isn't particularly amazing weather-wise at the moment, but it doesn't seem to be dampening anybody's enthusiasm. So, we've seen the seals out there. We've had them in the telescope for people, so the common seals out on the estuary there, and pintail out here. There's been some widgeon out here as well. We had a distant hen harrier a little while back. And we're just getting to the point, as you say, the tide is now dropping, and you can see visibly it is going out. And this is now the point, hopefully, where the wader flocks will start to move back. And they tend to go in little stages. So as the first bit of sand and mud gets exposed over on Millennium Ridge out here from our viewpoint, that'll be where they hop to first, and then they'll probably go over to Wainfleet as it drops a little bit more.
Calling it Bateman's.
Oh, I would if it were me, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the cooked breakfast in a minute. We haven't had ours yet.
No,
so,
we haven't, no.
So any time now, hopefully, we'll start to get some flocks of birds, and if I can get the cloth out, I'll get my glasses dry. You can have a dry of your glasses, and we might be able to see them.
It'd be quite nice to do that, wouldn't it? I mean, it still has been a fabulous morning, and people seem to have enjoyed it. That's the key thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is what it's all about for me. It's about spending time with people, connecting them with nature, seeing their enthusiasm and how they respond. And yes, it's been windy, and yes, it's been a bit rainy, but you do not get a spectacle like this in many places in the UK at all. So we've been really privileged.
I was talking to a couple and I was saying, well, what have you seen? And they said, well, I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you, but it's actually being out in nature. And you were describing what was going on, giving people that information. We're not all experts, but we do like to know more, don't we?
Yeah, I think there's just that natural curiosity that people have where, you know, you see something and it's only natural to want to know what it is, and from there you want to know what it does, and from there you actually start to care about wildlife as well. So that's what it's all about in terms of the Trust's mission to connect people with nature. It's about giving them these experiences. Thank you for listening to the Wilder Lincolnshire podcast from Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a follow or subscribe from the usual channels, and please tell your friends and family to give us a listen too.